Chag Sameach. The Haftorah we read on the first day of Rosh Hashanah tells the story of Hannah and her struggle with infertility. Hannah was the wife of Elkanah, and when she found she was unable to have children, she encouraged her husband to find a second wife so that he would be able to partake in the mitzvah of procreation. Hannah also hoped that by making that tough decision, God would reward her with a child of her own. Elkanah's second wife, Peninnah, had many children, and still Hannah found herself with none. One year, on one of the holiday pilgrimages to the Holy Tabernacle, Hannah's despair overcame her. She marched herself into the sanctuary and stood before the Holy of Holies and sobbed. She whispered her deepest prayers to God as she cried, begging him to please give her a child. Eli, the high priest, caught sight of Hannah and, seeing a woman frantically whispering and becoming so emotional, he concluded that she must be drunk. At the time, it was not common practice to whisper while praying, and in fact, the silent Amidah of today is attributed to Hannah in this moment. Hannah assured Eli that she was not drunk and explained to him the pain and desperation of her situation, and that she was in fact pouring her soul out to God in the hopes that he would answer her prayer. Upon hearing her story, Eli blessed her, and shortly after returning home from their pilgrimage, Hannah conceived and later gave birth to her son, the prophet Samuel. In reading this story this year, in the midst of all that we've endured over the last 6 months, I was struck by two things. The first point that struck me when reading this story is how much pain and suffering Hannah could have been saved had she somehow known that Shmuel would eventually come. So much of the pain in our lives comes from our inability to know how it all turns out. Hard moments are made even harder because we don't know where their endings are. If somebody could look in a crystal ball and tell us that it's all going to work out, we'd have a much easier time getting through. But of course, that's not how life works, and we are stuck navigating through hardship without any way of knowing how far we are from turning a corner. Here we are experiencing a global pandemic, a situation that most of us never fathomed we could find ourselves in. And we don't know how long things are going to be like this or what the world will look like when it's all over. So much of the anxiety of this moment right now is the not knowing. But reading Hannah's story reminded me how important it is to take a deep breath and remember that somehow, some way, we will get through it. That it's important to try and focus on the present and how we can make the best of extremely challenging circumstances while having faith that better days lie ahead. The second thing that struck me is the lesson we can learn from Eli's error when watching Hannah in prayer and coming to the conclusion that she was drunk. Don't assume that you know what is going on with someone when you haven't taken the time to speak with them and hear their story. This pandemic has impacted each of us in our own way. Though some of us may be experiencing similar struggles, others may be going through something entirely different. Everybody has a story, and it might not be the one you think. When Eli saw Hannah, he immediately drew a conclusion that was not only wrong, it was hurtful, and it belittled the severity of her situation. All he had to do was walk over and ask her if she was okay. Instead, he assumed the worst. We can all benefit from the reminder to assume less and empathize more. Take the extra moment to ask someone how they're doing instead of assuming you know what's going on. Chances are there's more than meets the eye. As we enter into a new year, may we all be kinder to each other. May we give each other the benefit of the doubt and lead with empathy rather than assumption. And may this new year be the start of better days ahead. Chag Sameach and Shana Tova.